Hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midred, the human health optimizer and the addiction eliminator. And I have an amazing guest with me today. Her name is Yolanda Brooks, and we actually met online through networking events. And I just loved what Yolanda was sharing. She is going to be talking to you about the fact that she's a conscious life coach, that she's also a somatic attachment therapist. She's going to be telling you just what those titles mean, but crucially, what got her into doing the work that she now does. So, Yolanda, over to you. Thank you for joining me. Tell us about your story.
Thank you for having me, Vicky. So, the conscious life coach. Life coaching is a very broad spectrum title, and it doesn't always direct you to anything specific. But for me, it's about being conscious. It's about being an active participant in your own healing, rather than looking outward for something that will fix you. It's about tapping into your own subconscious, your own superconscious, also known as the intuition for some. And actually being fully present in healing yourself.
Amazing.
Yeah. So which is why I chose that title, because it's got to be a choice.
Yeah. So what got you into the coaching path in the first place?
3 years ago when I turned 50, we'd been through COVID. I'd worked really hard because I was able to keep working through COVID. My husband's job vanished, so he came to work for me. But by the time I was 50, I was quite exhausted and ready for a bit of a change. Yes. I'd done the previous work. I'm still doing a little bit of it because it's really good for me. I really enjoy it. But I was ready for something more. My son had got to a certain age where he just didn't need me anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, what do I really want to do? And Philip suggested I just take the winter off. So
right.
I took 2 months off and I signed up for a writing course.
Okay.
Like a little writing sanctuary for about 2 weeks. And it was really cathartic. It really was quite amazing.
So prior to that, what was your work that you were doing?
I've done so many jobs. I've done so many jobs, but immediately prior to retraining, I was a gardener.
Right, because I just was going to ask you, so were you doing any writing in your previous job? Had it been a part of what you'd been doing? No, right.
No. I mean, I'd written bits and pieces for various jobs. I've been a TA, I've been a salvage trader, I've worked in financial services, all sorts of things. And I hadn't really written since primary school.
Right.
But I'm one of these people that always has this dream of writing a book. You know, it's always in your head.
Yeah.
So doing this writing thing, I thought, well, maybe I'll find out what this book is that's inside of me. But what actually happened was, it was so cathartic, and I worked through so many of my my issues, my little barriers. I learned to forgive people, including myself. And wow. I thought, this is really good. I need to do more of this. Because I would write something, you know, stream of consciousness or unconsciousness, however you want to see it, and go away, make a coffee, come back and wondering what I'd been writing.
Wow.
I would read it and burst into tears.
Gosh, fascinating.
Because it just expressed so much that when my hand was moving with the words, my brain hadn't really been aware of it.
Right.
So lovely old Facebook algorithm then sent me another writing course and then another. And at that point I thought, oh, you know, I've got 2 months to really find out what I'm doing in my life. So I just clicked on yes on everything that Facebook threw at me, every masterclass, every workshop, everything online. And in 2 to 3 months, I think I did about 60.
Wowzers. That's going some.
Yeah, anything ranging from between an hour to 2 weeks. It was quite spectacular what I got for free.
Yeah.
And then as the writing progressed, coaching programs started to come up. So I thought, okay, I wanted to be a counsellor when I was a teenager, but I had so many emotional issues that it was one of those things that felt impossible.
Right.
So I thought, coaching, women's circles came up.
Okay.
And that actually was a massive trigger. It was phenomenally uncomfortable for me to be in a group of women. Yeah, the first, but I, when you realise that you need something, even though it's scary.
Yeah.
So I signed up to train to do women's circles. And the first session, within 5 minutes, I was in tears all the way through.
Gosh.
And that was interesting because that brought up for me my mistrust of women.
It's interesting you should say that, isn't it? Because I can so relate to having those same kind of feelings, because I'd spent most of my time feeling more comfortable around men and not really realize that I had been unconsciously avoiding being around a lot of women for the very reason that you've just shared. So quite incredible for you to have that opening to, well, also to allow yourself to even go there in the first place. Take some courage.
Yeah, courage has been one of my sort of words the last few years, because I lived most of my life in fear. I had anxiety from a child, I had depression from teenage years. So that was how I lived my life. And something about the writing pushed me into doing this women's circle training, because I recognised that I had sister wound issues, mother wound issues, the whole sort of lineage of the witch wound type thing. So I decided to be brave and do it, and it was because all the women in the training were beautiful women. At the end of the day, whenever you sign up to any course, you might feel reticent, embarrassed, worried about what's coming, but everybody who signs up for something is looking for the same thing. They're looking for something as you are. So I just thought, be brave and go for it. And that really allowed me to explore my issues with women, because like you, similar to you, I was always more comfortable with men, but I always thought men were the problem, this whole feminist thing. And I've obviously relearned that whole narrative that the patriarchy didn't just damage women, it damaged men just as much.
Yeah.
And that recognition was really interesting. So after that, I did my NLP and coaching certification. But actually, what really changed things massively for me was the somatic attachment therapy.
Right. And for people who don't understand or fully understand what the word somatic means, do you want to just put it in simple terms for them?
Yeah, soma just means of the body. So somatic means in the body. And it's imperative we do that, because emotions are in the body, they're not in the mind. When you feel an emotion, it's not in here, it's below the neck.
Yeah.
And we cut ourselves off from our emotions because they're scary, they're unpleasant, and we don't want to face them. So we go straight up into the mind.
Yeah.
And I had been one of these people. I'm an ex-scientist. And I'd always been somebody who tried to rationalise and make everything logical and find the proof. And my mum used to say, you overanalyze everything from when I was a teenager. Why did they say this? Why didn't they say the other? What does that mean? What am I thinking? Why am I thinking this? I spent most of my life like that until my late 40s.
It's interesting, isn't it, that you can recognize that now. And also that, it made me laugh that you said you're an ex-scientist. I think you never lose that inquisitive mind, and you just reinforce the fact that you've always been inquisitive. You want to understand stuff, and in hindsight, you can see that part of that fueled your anxiety. But also it's a double-edged sword, because that's a negative side. But the positive side means that it's allowing you to do what you do because you wanted to find out more about why is this working and just how does it all connect together. So this is incredible stuff.
Yeah, Yeah, getting that mind-body connection was sort of quite a big turning point, because, you know, trauma and hurtful or damaging behavior patterns get in subconsciously, and we're trying to fix them with the conscious mind, and it doesn't work that way. They need to be in communication, which is why people who use physical methods to escape reality, it's always a temporary fix, isn't it? Because you're avoiding the emotion. Whereas people who focus on bodily stuff, it's temporary, but they're not connecting with the mind with the body. They're just disconnecting it and hoping the adrenaline will make them feel better. And the same, you can't do it with your with just your mind, because it's all subconscious. And like I say, the emotions are stored in the body. You cannot feel them in the mind. You can name them in the mind, recognize them, explain them, but you can't feel them. And you have to feel emotions in order to let them go.
Right. And this is a bit. Did you find that when you first got into this, that you were a little bit frightened to go there?
I wasn't personally, because I wasn't ready. I was so fed up of these bouts of depression. I don't know if have you had depression?
Thankfully, I haven't, but one of my parents suffered very, very much so with depressive episodes. So I'm very aware of what it can do to a person, though obviously haven't experienced it, thankfully, for myself.
It's quite harsh, because you're always, going back to the logic and the overanalysis, you're always trying to work out why am I sad? And the somatic attachment therapy was really instrumental in me understanding that, because the attachment part is a lot of people know what attachment theory is. It's how you've bonded and how things, how you grow as a person. So the way you have attached to your primary caregivers, whether that's parents, grandparents, or whoever, really dictates how you bond with everybody through your life. Because it becomes very unconscious. And at the root of everything we do, unconsciously, subconsciously, is safety.
Correct.
So, which is why I hold a masterclass and deliver a course about self-sabotage.
Right.
And one of the first things that I explain to people is that everyone is traumatized.
Correct.
Because trauma isn't just one huge big, we call it big T trauma. It's not necessarily one or multiple huge events. You've got little T trauma. So the analogy I use is, if you have something happen to you in your life that really derails you and causes huge issues, it's like putting big boulders in your pockets.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're carrying that weight. But a lot of people struggle with this, with believing they have issues, because, well, my life was fine, and in comparison, I had a nice life, and my parents weren't bad. But it's not about those things. It's about how you feel as this child. Are you safe? Do you feel safe, heard, loved, the way you need to feel? So our parents might, a lot of people don't like to criticize their parents, and it's not about how our parents behaved. It's about how we as individuals actually felt and responded. So in that sense, as from birth, pre-birth even, because if your mother's stressed, you're born addicted to cortisol. So from that point until you're a conscious being, you have all these little things happen that seem insignificant. But when there's a little pebble in your pocket, and then another one, and then another one, it compounds. And the way to the way I liken one of the easier ways to recognize if you're traumatized is if you have behavior patterns such as you overreact to things and you don't know why. You're scared of something and you don't know why. It's all these behaviors that are actually, when you look at them, they're either harmful or they limit your life.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people listening can identify with that really clear description. And often we don't really take the pause or take the time to actually ask ourselves those questions, do we? Until we're a little bit older. And that's where we realize, and we kind of go, but I've always been like that, and this is who I am, and we kind of think it's our identity. But of course it's not. It's just that it's our way of dealing with life as we saw it from being very small. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, we get hijacked, don't we, by our subconscious, and we think we're living life consciously, but we're really not.
Yeah,
we're just,
and that's the shocker.
Yeah, surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is where when you get into that somatic attachment therapy, and it's, I mean, I use words like very much allowing, giving yourself permission to actually feel.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women and men, and I say more so men, are recognizing this now because they are affected by it. They just don't feel very comfortable, or perhaps as comfortable as women do, talking about it. But having your body release trauma can in itself be a very strange experience, because everybody experiences it differently. And you mentioned that you read your stuff back and you broke down in tears, and that's just from releasing, reading the words. But often when it comes to the work that you do, that release can be in all kinds of ways, can't it?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, tears is quite common, and you might have elevated anxiety for a while. You may feel numb. Right. It can happen in a multitude of ways. Yeah. And I think the two most important words to me are awareness and acceptance.
Nice. Yeah.
Because quite often we feel guilty for how we actually feel, and there's nothing as an individual you've ever felt that is so unique and special that you're the only person in the world. So,
but it feels like it.
It feels like it. But how can we possibly, as individuals, be the only person in the history of humanity who's ever felt this way or thought this thought? It's just not possible.
No.
So when you hear the phrase "you're not alone," it kind of falls on deaf ears, because, like you're saying, we feel alone.
Yeah.
But when you sort of put the perspective on it of, I cannot possibly be the only person who's felt this way, because I'm, it's just
I'm not that unique and different.
I'm not that unique. I'm not that special. And it sounds awful to say it, but actually it takes the pressure off a bit to go, I'm not that amazing.
And also, I think that, especially when it comes to the self-sabotage stuff, and I'm sure that you've found this when you're working with clients, there's so much shame around those thoughts and those feelings that just even admitting them to yourself can be quite a challenge. But then, as you say, it's actually a relief to know that actually you're not the only person who's felt that way or thought those thoughts, and it's okay, because nobody is going to be judging you. We're all going to go, phew, it's not just me then.
Yeah. I mean, years ago I was told, well, try journaling,
right?
Try meditation.
Yes.
Okay, what do I do? Journaling, I could not bring myself to do, because I was in such a bad place that I thought, well, it's bad enough it's in here. I don't really want to out on paper and in the real world, because it felt like that would solidify it and make it immovable, concrete. Right. But when I started writing, sort of part of the work I did was looking at the superconscious, which is the intuitive part of us, the pure part of being a human being, connecting with, whether you believe in these things or not, doesn't matter. It's your higher self or your intuition or the energy of the universe, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
When you connect with that, you see yourself as more than just human being. And in conjunction with the writing, and this is why I've put them together, in conjunction with the writing, words are massively important. When I see people say it doesn't matter what word you use, it really does.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Oh, huge. It's a massive part of the work that I do, because we all, as you say, it's unconscious programming, a lot of it, but we have perceptions and interpretations of words, but also words have energy. And we don't necessarily realize that we can change how we think, feel, and behave just by changing the words that we choose to use. But often, this is the work that you do. We aren't even conscious until you get the awareness.
Yeah.
And that's what the writing, I'm guessing, really allows you to do.
Yes, and it taps into your own language. Like you just said, we could have one word and 3 people see it 3 different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of, and it relates to affirmations. I have a thought about affirmations. They are wonderful, and they're all designed to be positive, uplifting, and aspirational. But if you've ever read an affirmation and it's made you feel worse, you feel suddenly a bit useless, or you don't really know what it means, it's because it's not in your words. So as part of one of my writing courses, I get people to write their own.
Nice.
If you are trying to convince yourself, I am brave, I am strong, I am powerful, and you don't feel that way, it doesn't compute in your brain. There's a disconnect.
Yeah, totally.
There's something called cognitive dissonance. Opposite beliefs that don't work together, because some do, but others don't. So I get people to pick an affirmation they really like, but actually change the words to something that means something to you.
Nice.
And explain to yourself why your words mean something to you. With my one-to-one clients, we'll look at that, because if you are talking to yourself in phrases from your childhood that were negative, you fully believe it. If you change and speak to yourself in another way that is more positive and helpful, it will, eventually it will change the way your mind works.
Right.
What was I going to say about affirmations? Can't remember. It'll come back to me.
I think you and I'm they have their place, but I also feel that there's this, and it's partly to do with social media, and it's partly to do with the way that things have been misrepresented. Certain books, I think, that we just say the words and then magically it's going to happen without you putting any work in. And it's like,
that's like manifestation, isn't it?
Just say it and then you believe it. But I know very much that when I've had clients who come to me and say, no, I've done these affirmations, and often they just become words that you say, and they're not attached in any way, shape or form to them, or they say them and there's a part of their brain that goes, yeah, right.
Exactly, which is why they mean nothing. Exactly. So I remembered what I was going to say, and it's, instead of saying, so imagine your goal is to be a little more courageous. Instead of saying I am courageous, for some people it works beautifully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you've got deeper things going on, it doesn't. And you can say I am practicing being courageous.
Yeah.
I am learning. Because if you are trying to tell yourself you're already there and you don't feel like you are, it doesn't fit.
Right.
If you are telling yourself that you're practicing, you're on that road.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this also ties in with doing things like, as you said, journaling. For some people, there's a bit of a block there that I don't even want to say this stuff in my own head, never mind get it out on paper, and then it becomes a bit real, and then what do I do with it? But when you're writing, as you teach people, from a place of intuition, and you're just allowing the words to flow without there being the judgment, etc., and let me just see what appears on the page. It's all this process, I think, of you allowing yourself to look at things in a different way, and recognizing that the reason you felt out of sorts was because you already were not in alignment with the true version of you. And this is where it kind of ties in nicely to the name of your website, because that's what you are doing, aren't you? You're letting the light in. You're letting in the stuff that you kind of knew was there because you weren't happy with you here, but you didn't know how to crack open the pathways, if you like. And that's why I love why you've titled your website Letting the Light .in, because it's just such a brilliant name that encompasses everything you do. So when you discovered then the women's circles and what you could do and the writing, where did that then take you?
So I've trained to be the somatic attachment therapist, and I wanted to incorporate everything. So I still do women's circles, but I do them in person here in the hut.
Nice.
I one-to-one work, and I specialise in identity, communication, because of words, obviously, and relationships, because the words you use affect the way you communicate. The communication affects your relationships, all of them.
Yeah.
And people don't realise that what they say, what they hear, and you end up in a row, repeated discussions, misunderstandings, is all about, as you said earlier, the meaning of the words to the individual.
Yeah.
But it goes so much deeper than that. It goes back to childhood. So we look at childhood, we look at the different parts of us, you know, the angry part, the happy part, the scared part, all those parts, they make us up as a whole.
Yeah.
And if we're not in contact with each of those parts, they're running the show in our subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
So I have two offerings with the writing. And it's really interesting because I started with writing and I put it aside to do the therapy and the coaching.
Right.
And yet 2.5 years later, the writing is the thing that people are getting the biggest difference because I'm tapping into their subconscious.
Yeah.
So with journaling, a daily journal of this is happening, this is how I feel, this is what I've done is good for some people. It works for some people.
Yeah.
But I've got two offers around writing. So one is called Wild Words. And for me, it's called Wild Words because the words need to come out untamed, uncensored, free. Yeah. And that's how it comes out of your subconscious after a really good meditation, the right kind of meditation. And I like to call them journeying because a grounding meditation is lovely and calming. But I like to take people on little journeys with a purpose.
Right.
So it's never random. It's always, there's a purpose. Yeah. So in the Wild Words course, which is 10 weeks, and then a possible further 10 weeks for deeper introspection, every session has a purpose. And it's going through from childhood to parts work to superconscious. And it's the prompts.
Yes. Yeah.
That really tap into something.
Nice.
And it's mixed with things like word association, which sounds really quite dull, but actually they bring up some really interesting things. Because quite often people will say, well, I've just come up with the word yesterday, for example, I came up with the word cabbage and I don't know what that means. I said, write it down. There is something about a cabbage. Yeah. You know, so we have a discussion about it. And it turns out in conjunction with a door she opened in the meditation, it was all about when she was 15. Something happened when she was 15.
Right.
And we didn't quite work out what the cabbage was about. But I know somewhere down the line, something will pop up if she allows it to. Yeah. So the Wild Words course, this time round, I've done it in person. Right. And I've done for wellness and creative expression combined. But I'm going to separate them because it's become a very therapeutic session for some of the participants, more creative expression for others.
Okay.
So the others like writing books, writing memoirs, poetry. It's that sort of area. Yeah. Whereas for the wellness people, it's much deeper. It's very therapeutic.
But this is the fascination and the joy of you running these in person and just seeing what happens, because only by doing this work can you see that, okay, that's an interesting outcome, that there are two parts to this. Yeah. And it very much, I'm guessing, depends on who the participants are and where they are in their life and what they are actually needing in that at that moment. And so this is why I've done just a very short lesson in mindful writing, and it was only as an example, like a taster, and just the benefit that I got from that really short taster was quite amazing, because I'd never done it before. And I think this is the joy of it's something that is quite new, but it's always going to be different. And that's the joy of it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go to this session and I know exactly what's going to happen, because you don't. And that's the fun of it. And it brings in the curiosity. And as you said, you get the opportunity to talk about it and to work out what does this actually represent and what is coming up for you. And the freedom in being able to do that in a setting where everybody is there for the same reason is fantastic. So you do it in person, but do you also do it in online?
I'm going to from I think mid-October.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's going to be online. I think one creative and one wellness. It definitely does bring up things that people are not expecting throughout. All my workshops, whether it's the writing, the self-sabotage, or the mindfulness and meditation, there are tears, because people have deep realizations. It's not surface level work.
No.
And for example, after the first session of my current Wild Words course, one of the participants stayed behind and said, I just want to tell you that I have understood more about myself in this last 2 hours than in 7 months of counselling.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
And it's fascinating, because I knew it worked for me. Combining writing with the meditation and superconsciousness work worked for me. But when I put them together and thought, will this work for other people? I had to have that same thought. I can't be the only person, And the people who came said, I just saw your event on Facebook and it just spoke to me.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And it is so therapeutic. It is quite amazing how deep these things can get from something that sounds superficial.
Right. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think also with this work, it does speak to you. And again, this is the joy. It's actually unconsciously, because you don't necessarily know why am I being drawn to that particular thing. You don't need to know why. Just follow through. Go and do it. And sometimes I think, like you, I like to understand the whys behind things, but also I'm very good now at just going, it doesn't actually matter. Just do it and enjoy what the result is. And then if you definitely need to go back to looking at the why, you can do that. But sometimes you don't need to know how something works or why it works, but just that it does.
It just does.
It just does.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those where if you're open to just having a go and as you say, getting yourself to just accept that the words will come out as they're meant to, and we don't necessarily need to understand them, but just go with the flow. It's quite exciting. One thing I wanted to ask about, because I think it's one of those topics that people talk about and people listening think they sort of know what it means, but back to words, they have an interpretation in their head of what it is. So meditation is one of those, and the other one is mindfulness, because that is a word that everybody has seen now around so many times. But I'm not sure that people really fully comprehend what does mindfulness mean. So do you just want to go into a little bit of what mindfulness actually is?
Yeah. I think most people realize it's being aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's maybe thinking about it, but it's kind of present, being in the moment. And for me, mindfulness is an active process of being fully absorbed in the moment. And when I say in the moment, it means every 5 seconds you're remembering that you're paying attention to what you're doing.
Right.
Whereas meditation, there are myriad ways to meditate, and that is more of a passive or receptive way of calming. You can just sit in the garden and listen to the birds and try and still your mind. That's meditation. You can go for a walk and look at the shapes of the trees and the clouds without thinking about them. That's meditation. So they're slightly different. So for me, mindfulness is the more active task, active activity, active process, the way of doing it. And meditation is allowing yourself to be more passive and receive what's coming in or what's happening inside. Yeah. And they work beautifully together because you can switch between the two in the same place. And in the last course that I did of that, somebody was in tears and two people said, I've never experienced bliss like that before.
Incredible. Nice.
Because it was a switch between mindfulness and meditative states that I taught them.
Yeah.
That they felt fully present and in themselves, and yet connected to the world, connected to all the energy of life.
Fabulous.
And it's quite hard to describe what it feels like to be connected to the energy of everything.
There's some things that you can't necessarily put into words. You just have to experience. And even that, because your experience is not necessarily the same as somebody else's experience of it. So to be able to describe it, you're right, it is absolutely challenging. So I can see that when you're talking about this, and for those people who are listening only, sorry, you can't see, but Yolanda is beaming. She is just exuding energy and joy because this stuff literally lights you up when you talk about it. And this is the power of consciousness, mindfulness, meditation, connecting to energy and yourself as a whole human being. And I think we're stepping into an era now where people are not so scared of this stuff. They're starting to recognize that everybody can benefit from connecting mind and body. They never were disconnected, but we've gone through, I think, at least a couple of centuries where we have become more and more disconnected. And I think finally we're starting to reconnect. And hopefully this will continue more and more, especially in an era of AI where there is that disconnect. And I think it's even more important that we humans understand how we do work as whole human beings. And this is why I think your work is just so exciting for people to get involved with. Now, I always like to ask my guests this question: what is the one thing that the person listening to this episode, you would like them to walk away with?
I think it's knowing that there is a way to find your own peace. You have to try multiple things. And I'd say in my life, there have been 5 or 6 things that I always say have saved me. Hypnotherapy started, 15 years ago. I had a hypnotherapy session, and that kind of introduced me to the concept of the subconscious, because I went to him and said, you've got to bypass my brain. Talking doesn't work. You got to get past my brain into my subconscious. And I noticed one of my normal reactions didn't happen.
Okay.
I wasn't triggered by something that had always triggered me before. And it took weeks for that to happen. Right. And it was a surprise, but I thought, oh, okay, something's different. And then years went on. So, you've got to try different things. Not everything is going to work. Yeah. You've also got to push yourself a little bit. Right. I have another little niggle with this I am enough business.
Right, yeah.
Because as a human being, yes, you're enough. You're valid, you're special, because human beings are special. Every living creature is special on this planet. But if you are telling yourself, I am enough, and you feel rubbish, this is why. You know you could be better.
Correct.
You know you could be happier, stronger, braver. And if you hear that phrase and you don't feel enough, that's why. You're kidding yourself. This is cognitive dissonance again.
Absolutely.
So allow yourself to have these socially unacceptable thoughts of, I am not enough because I could be better. And I'm going to find a way, and I'm going to try things that I have ignored. I'm going to try things that have never occurred to me, that sound strange, because something will click.
Yeah.
In 2019, I read a book that changed my life. Within half an hour, because when you have to, you know, before I sort of referenced depression, I had it most of my life and I managed to work through it in various stages. But ask anybody who has these depressive phases, there are times when you feel your mood dipping and it sends you into a blind panic of, oh gosh, it's happening again.
Right.
And it's an awful feeling because you don't necessarily know it's going to happen, but the fear is, you know, there's this thing of being afraid of fear.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening. And my brother gave me this audiobook that I'd had on my shelf for 30 years and point blank refused to read because I thought I was clever enough to fix myself. But on audiobook, I listened, and within half an hour, my lifelong anxiety just gone.
Wow. So anybody listening is going to be going, what's the book? What's the book, Yolanda? What's the book?
Well, this is why mindfulness and meditation is important to me, because it's The Power of Now by Ekhart, Tolle.
Brilliant book. Yeah.
Yeah, it changed my life completely. And so that was another, because when you look at the process of healing, it's not a nice, smooth, linear, uphill. It's stages.
Yeah.
And that was another stage in my healing. And then 3 years ago, it was, I'm 50. I haven't got that much time left. What am I going to do with it?
Right.
And that's when I changed my life. So never give up. Every year is a new year. Every day is a new day. Every experience. There's a film with Jim Carrey called, I don't know if it's just called Yes or The Yes Man or something, where he just says yes to everything that's put in front of him. And honestly, if it's not dangerous or too expensive, just do it. Put yourself out there. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant, positive and exciting note to end on, because none of us know what I believe we are capable of. And I love how you framed that. You don't believe that it becomes a mantra, doesn't it? I am enough. But if you're actually saying to yourself in your own head, no, there is more, then find out what you can do. And as you shared right back at the beginning, you jumped on so many things just by looking through Facebook and what was being shown to you, that if you'd have not said yes, you'd have never have discovered half of the stuff that you're doing now. And so you just do not know where that yes can take you. And I think that's a brilliant note to end on. So Yolanda, I'm going to put all of the links to your website. You've also going to be sharing with us a clickable meditation that people will be able to download. So folks, do not just jump off, scroll down and have a listen to what Yolanda is sharing in that meditation. I think you'll love it. And do go over to her website and look at the courses that she's going to be offering, especially in October when she's doing some online stuff. So once again, thank you so much for being a guest on Raw Chatter. And as usual, folks, I'm going to leave you with this. We only have one life as far as we know, and one body. So take care of it, because it is taking care of you. And until next time, have a great one. Bye-bye. Thank you.